Hi. I didn't see you there. Sorry, I was just in the middle of taking out all of these scraps of paper that were cards from Changing Diva from all of the things that we tested.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just there's a ton of paper. There's I'm looking at literally how much paper we've printed out, and I think it's half a tree. Of Changing Diva stuff that we've tested.
Did you want to say who we are or what we're doing?
Oh, yeah, I guess that's something I should do. I was just going to get right into the data.
You're just so excited. We can't even begin. Anyways, let me go ahead and do it. Hi, welcome to The Life Burst, a Wixoss podcast where we talk about the more competitive side of Wixoss. I'm your host, Tiffany, along with my co-host.
My name is Andrew.
Thanks for finally jumping in there.
I'm not used to this side.
So, Andrew, what are we going to be talking about today?
Oh, it's just, hold on a second.
That is going to annoy someone.
We're Paper SMR podcast.
Hi, welcome to the Wixoss ASMR podcast.
Hold on, let me get some card flicking in there. I got it. Hold on.
Wait, can you be like one of those guys or persons at like the competitions that like cannot keep their hand still?
Oh yeah,
where they're just like flicking their cards all the time, and I'm like, why?
I'm so mad. I'm becoming that person in Wixoss, and I've always prided myself at not being that person because I put my hand down when I'm not playing with it. But because I have to swap between two, I actually do need to flick through a little bit to be like, oh, which cards were the ones that okay, these ones should be on top, and I'm gonna remember they're there.
You know what? That's fair. I take back what I said. Only specifically for Wixoss though, because you are dealing with multiple decks. Speaking of multiple decks,
yeah,
let's get into it.
Today we're going to be talking about the Gauntlet.
The Gauntlet,
and that was going to be our original topic, which we were just going to talk about the data from our Gauntlet. But they just announced a Wixoss ceremony that will be coming out.
Woohoo!
I hope you guys paid this. It would have been paid to subscribe, I would say, because within 15 minutes of that announcement, I put a blast on the channel for people to sign up. And you know what? Within 6 hours, it was sold out.
Yep.
So
and we signed up for it.
Right.
Oh boy, did we.
So to be clear, guys, I'm not saying you should subscribe, but it does pay to subscribe.
Subscribe if you want like top of the hour Wixoss updates and announcements and stuff. You are really on top of it.
I know. I pride myself at being like within the first 5 minutes of these things. I have I even have the Wixoss news like pre-set up to just basically put in the details and then export. So it's like within 10 minutes.
Ooh, a little peek behind the YouTube curtain.
Yeah. And hopefully, no one at work who watches this knows that I have the file ready at work. Yeah.
Why are you doing
just
that?
putting myself on blast here.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, this might be one of the channels you actually do want to ring the bell. And I know that I don't want to be a stupid YouTuber that's always like subscribe and ding that bell.
Comment, like, subscribe, and ring that bell. You can ring my bell.
But if you guys want the news as quick as possible, you might want to actually get notifications turned on.
So with that said, what we've been doing is we have been cycling through all of the cards really that we've been play testing because we have not only the big ceremony coming up to prepare for, but we also have the March party that's going to be happening sometime this month.
Some of the March parties are going to be held after March 18th, aka the release date of Changing Diva. So we have been just really prepping. All right, what do we want our decks to look like, right? And that's kind of one of the things that we're here to talk about, right? Is just not only our data, but what is a gauntlet in general.
Yeah.
And what is a gauntlet, Tiffany?
A gauntlet is when you put together a multitude of decks, not just the deck that you want to play, but other decks that you might come across in the meta. So we have put together, how many do we have now?
The ones that are next to us are a little bit of a disillusioned because our gauntlet was around 5 decks prior to Changing Diva. And then during the us testing for Changing Diva, we tested a lot more decks. So we went up to around 10 decks that we were testing.
Because we were testing, like, and I think we mentioned this in our last podcast, we were testing different centers and changing out for the new cards and dream teams and all that stuff. So so the point of putting together something like a gauntlet is that you can take a bunch of different decks and play test them all together and see what you want to switch out for your deck. It's basically like giving yourself like a practice quiz.
Yeah, it's like having in front of you the entire metagame and choosing what you think will be successful out of that metagame. And not only that, like, you know, some of the times we have different versions of the decks with slightly different tweaks, right? Like at one point we were running Uchu no Hajimari Bang and A Bang with a dream team setup. So we had both of them available to literally just swap in, swap out. And as such, right, we have done a lot of testing on all the future centers that were coming in, and we've eliminated most of the decks. We've now got ourselves down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decks.
And if you would like an overview of those new centers, you can check out some of our previous videos.
That's true. Some of our reviews on that stuff. And I'll just straight up say the list right now. I think it's probably important to say it. So we've got Card Jockey with a MC Lion center. We have Madoka, which is Diagram with a Madoka center. We have a Diagram with a Musica center. We have an Uchi no Hajimari with a Tamago center. We have Sanbaka with a Toko center. And we have No Limit with a Hirana center. And we have a Bang Dream Team. And that's what we do. The Bang Dream Team used to be an Ancient Surprise, and after thorough testing, we've just decided this Bang Dream Team is just better than Ancient Surprise, period.
Yeah, it's got a little bit bigger, greener energy, so...
Yeah, and Sanbaka is on the threshold of being eliminated out of the gauntlet at some point. The only reason I haven't full-on eliminated it is because I think a lot of people think it's maybe a little better than what it is.
Yeah, you know, there's been a lot of... We've been reading a lot of comments, not just on our YouTube channel, but also, like, across, like, Reddit and stuff like that, of people that have really been enjoying, like, a Toko Center Sanbaka. Yeah. So that's why it's in our gauntlet. So,
and that's one of the reasons, too, is you don't only put together the decks that you think are the best in the meta for future testing, but you also keep what's popular in there, even if it's bad.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if people are playing it, you should probably know how to play against it.
Yep.
So those are our what we've come out with testing. And I guess if we're gonna talk about it, let's just talk about changing Diva cards that have impressed in the first place, and then we'll get into the nitty gritties as to like why, for example, Akino's not in there anymore, things like that.
Sure.
So I think one of the first ones to test. Oh, I know you're checking these out, as in these are the cards that are impressed, but these are just leftover proxies that I seriously haven't thrown out yet.
I'm going to be a little slow on the uptake, guys. I'm a visual person.
There's a piece, isn't there, that is probably important to talk
about. Oh,
yes.
And, well, this is also based off of, like, looking at some of the Japanese metas as well, because they're very far ahead of us. But there's a new piece coming out called Xeno Cluster.
You got it.
And what that does is it is a zero-cost piece that I think you can also play at main phase as well as attack phase. No?
Just attack phase.
Just attack. It's just attack phase, which is going to be an interesting response. And it says you can draw a card or enter charge 1. However, if one or more cards were moved from your hand into your trash by your opponent's effect this turn, instead draw 3 cards, which is great.
And it basically does the same thing for
it does the same thing for enter burn. So if you were enter burned, then you can enter charge 3 instead of just enter charging 1, which is you know what? It comes in clutch.
I will say in testing, I didn't think that only the attack phase timing would be annoying. It is slightly annoying. So against the decks where where that happens, you get discarded or you get enter burned. It is annoying because less so for the enter burn, But the if it's like against the decks that you just need to draw a card because the enter burn's not happening and the discard's not happening, like you're up against Sandbacher or something, right? And you're like, well, I wish I could draw a Signy that I could play with this just to get it, just to cantrip it out of here and get it out of here. But you have to wait to attack timing, which means that you don't get to do it until your next turn. You don't get to use the card until your next turn.
Right.
You could hopefully fish a guard with it. I think that's happened to you literally once, where I was like, you can just cantrip it away and hopefully get a guard, and you're like, okay, and then you did it and you got a guard, and you're like,
Yeah, that does feel good. It also just feels good to whenever you come up against something that's like discard a card, and then during the attack phase you can be like, no, you didn't.
Yeah, Madoka does it a lot. I don't know if Uchu's the hand disruption deck anymore. I think it's Madoka.
Yeah.
Well, so how much Uchu hand disrupts turn 3 on very, very well and very continuously. But it doesn't really do much turn 2 and turn 1 for hand disruption. And Madoka does it like turn 1.
Yeah. It's a deck.
It's also, so Xeno is also good against things like No Limit or these, at one point in time, No Limit was so strong because it was attacking constantly. And then while it was putting on this fast clock on you, it was also like shred your hand. And then, okay, you've recovered your hand. Good for you. You don't have any more enter to the top. And at least Xeno Cluster goes like, hold up. I'd like to stay in the game a little longer than this.
Yeah, it is really nice. It is a really nice sort of piece to have if you find yourself running out of enter or running out of cards in your hand. But honestly, one of the best things about that card is the 0 cost, because if you time that right, like, it really does help in your like later games. So that's a really great new piece that's been coming out. Have there been any other new pieces that we've seen? I don't think so.
No, nothing that I'm like. It's sad. It's Xeno Cluster is so flexible, and when it's strong, it's so strong, right? It's really pushing you in that direction of, I should have one team piece that's always good, always available, and then I should have one flexible piece that is going to help me in a little bit in a game if it doesn't pop up, but it's like basically sideboarding against your opponent before the game starts.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you are a discard deck. Cool. At least
Let's
3 of those
this.
discards don't matter.
Yeah. All right, what else we got?
So just heading down the list, I think there's Parajulius in green.
Sorry, what was that?
Parajulius. That we were so quick at trying this stuff out, we didn't have the English names yet for most of these. Parajulius is the level 1 green Signy that if you've enter charged this turn, you can pay a green and a colorless, and you can vanish something on attack 8,000 or less. It's also a water beast.
Oh, okay.
See, these set reviews coming in clutch. I remember all the cards.
Yeah, you did.
That one's been pretty good, right? You've been playing a lot of the Bang deck, so you can talk about it.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm going to be honest. I don't recall coming across it or using it very much in the deck, but I can say that I do think it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because anytime that you can bolster your enter zone, but also get some lane clearing action out of that, like you're repaying for the card, essentially. And then, again, it's one of those like tempo things. Like anytime that you can give yourself card advantage while taking away card advantage from your opponent is a good thing. What level is that Signy again?
Level 1.
Oh, great. So you can essentially do that turn 2.
As soon as I show you there, you're going to remember it.
I do remember it.
I know, we're so art-based people.
I'm so embarrassed right now. Please don't come for me. I'm really sorry. I promise I'm doing my best. Some of these names are really long, though. Parajulius Phantom Aquatic Beast. You know what?
Yeah, I bet you we're so much art people, you didn't even realize that in the Bang deck we're using the Japanese version of Lancelot.
No. I did notice that, but I knew
English.
exactly what it did, so it didn't matter. Yeah, whenever this Signy attacks, if one or more cards were moved from your deck to your enter zone this turn, you may pay this. Yeah, you know what? I think that's got a lot of... It definitely has use, like, in the early game, but I feel like it's, like... It might be even better, like, turn 2 or turn 3.
Yeah.
Because then you'll have, like, the enter to actually, like, get the full use out of the card. Even if it's a 1 for
It's going to age
2000.
well, too. Well, like, the more enter stuff that exists, and that is in the color of green, the more that card's just going to be better. Mm-hmm. Period.
All right, what else we got?
Oh, I think you probably like this one.
Buffalo, Phantom Terror Beast God. Whenever Terror Beast Signy enters whenever another Terror Beast Signy enters your field, this Signy and the Signy that has entered your field both get 4,000 plus 4,000 until the end of turn. Auto, at the beginning of your attack phase, all Signy on your field with power 20,000 or more gain whenever the Signy attacks. You may pay 1 red, 1 anything. If you do, vanish target Signy in front of this Signy with power 12,000 or less. Yeah, this is another one of those that, like, it really helps you in the late game. Just because, like, if you have anything else that's buffing your Signy, with this, you can easily get to 20. Mm-hmm. Especially if you time it right.
Yeah.
So this is another great one. And it's cheap too.
Yeah.
Like, it's nice and buff, and it's cheap. So by the time that you're playing this, you'll probably be able to get the full use out of it, if you time it correctly.
Yeah, I agree. But more or less, I think it's worth noting that what we found overwhelmingly was changing Diva doesn't really change a ton in the meta. Ironic, I know. Just because Bang, and we'll get more into, again, the actual specific decks in a second, but Bang doesn't really do... It's okay. It's an okay addition, but it's not like, oh, it's power charging something. Mm-hmm. Green is now viable, right? Like, it's not. It's still... Green is slightly better than it was before, which was to say that it wasn't very good, and now it is okay. I
would say that. Like, I would say that in 0-0 and 0-1, Green just did not have a lot of support, and changing Diva, ironically, again, is probably not going to change that very much.
Yeah.
So.
So there's not a ton of notable Signies or spells that are really, really changing up, right? There's no Archwains. Right, there's no Terror Beast Gods, Osa Getsune. There's no cards that are like, oh damn, this is other than Xeno Cluster. Xeno Cluster is like, okay, this is something I've got to consider all the time.
Yeah, now. I would. Yeah,
I would say the closest we get to being like, oh, these are utterly fantastic, are actually mostly diagram cards. We've got Phalaris. I always say Phalaris, but it's definitely just Polaris. Polaris, the one that level 3 that when it vanishes a Signy, you make the opponent mill 10. Mm-hmm. Right?
It's like rainbow colored.
Yeah. Suddenly Madoka, or suddenly
you can also pay to give something negative 5,000.
No. That's you're thinking of Langling.
I am thinking of Langling. Thank you.
Yeah. I know they're close because they both mill, right? But that's the thing, is you're playing Musica, right?
Yeah.
You're playing Langling and you're playing Polaris, and suddenly you're like, hey, salvage the future. Oh, I milled you. Also, next turn I play Polaris and I play Langling and I play another Langling and I need you to mill 20. And then they're like, wait, okay, I'm going to refresh twice this game?
Ouch.
Sucks.
The only good thing about that is you can't lose to a refresh. That's the only good thing that comes from that.
Right.
Yeah.
Although, I guess if you're...
Still hurts.
If you're a card jockey, you can lose to a refresh. Because your endless punchline's not going to go off.
Oh. That's true.
But outside of Polaris, there is actually several blue cards that I think are pretty good that come from this set.
Yeah, run them through.
One of them's a workhorse. The other one is good in Madoka specifically. Mm-hmm. And the last one is also probably only good in Madoka. But Madoka is a real deck that we need to talk about, and that's going to be our next section. And that is... oh god, here, I'm going to let you try some of these names. I'm going to let you practice while I talk about this card.
Okay.
ZR02 Natural Element Queen. I believe that's Zirconium, by the way. That one is the level 3, makes your opponent discard a card for an enter, and then you can pay another enter and start using it as removal. It's super flexible. It's one of the few ways that you can get blue to have good lane clearing. So it just becomes a card that gets used quite a bit in Madoka, even though it's not quite as good as Dark Energy or Ling Ling in just straight up removal. It also does it on attack, so it actually is a little better for enter stuff. And it's one of the reasons why Madoka jumps from being a non-existent deck to suddenly probably a tier 1 deck immediately. What's some of the other cards?
All right. We've got Gaigale, the Azure Angel. That's my best. That's going to be my best.
I think Gaigale's good.
Gaigale. On enter, draw a card and discard a card. Nice. Always welcome. And then auto, whenever the Signy attacks, draw a card and discard a card.
Right. And
so you've got some good like hand filtering there.
Right. Filtering's great.
And you can do it twice.
And you can do it twice in one turn. So you can be digging for really good cards that you're actually looking for example, and turning on the next card, which is
Sorry, I can't read. I don't have my glasses. Hijikata, Azure General. Constant. As long as you have discarded one or more cards this turn, this Signy gets plus 3,000 power, which going from a 7,000, it'll go up to a 10. Constant. As long as you have discarded 2 or more cards this turn, this Signy gains auto. Whenever this Signy vanishes a Signy on your opponent's field through battle, your opponent discards a card at random. So, seems to be a lovely little pair that you've got there.
Wombo combo. Plus the fact that Madoka, when it enters, draws you 3 cards, discards 2, and you've got Chime of the Blessed Key to enable it. I don't like.
Yeah, from what it sounds like, your Hijikata, it will be a nice little addition to those cards.
Yeah, so we've tested a lot of the Madoka deck, and that's probably going to be one of the first deck techs that was going to come out later on this week.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of people talking about the Madoka Center a lot.
And we've tried different variations. I think I've settled on one that is pretty good and basically does everything powerful at all points in times. And the things that aren't powerful are air, like the angel that they're air, as in you hit them and then you just keep going. So they basically help you find the pieces that are powerful. So they're not important, right? They're
I was like, what are we doing? Is this Avatar like Earth?
No. It's basically, right? Like when you fill your deck with cards that say, when this enters the battlefield, draw a card, basically, right? You are enabling basically your deck to be a smaller deck size, right? Oh. Because if 7 of your cards enter the battlefield, draw you a card, discard a card, right? They filter. So they basically are just, they're nothing. You get rid of them, right? You lose a little bit of tempo on it. But it makes it so your deck size shrinks from 40 cards to 32, which means that the chances of finding your important cards now are 4 out of 32 instead of 4 out of 40.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like thinning your deck out a bit.
Correct. Yeah, no, 100% thinning.
But like instead of doing something like card jockey
has a lot of air.
Well, yeah, but card jockey, you're more like trying to fix your deck. You're not trying to like cycle through it.
Yeah.
Like you're not trying to necessarily like
find a specific piece.
Yeah. So you're thinning your deck before it even gets on the table.
Right.
Meanwhile, card jockey's trying to do that during the game.
Right. And so Madoka, right, is just superbly powerful because it has this strong early game presence.
It does.
And the strong early game presence doesn't even come from its cyclers, right? And that's most of what the beginning deck is mostly cyclers are multicolored. And what really is the quote-unquote strong is they all have Lancer. And you might say, well, how do they all have Lancer? It's because they all have Lancer because Senga has a Lancer.
Oh, that's true.
So it doesn't matter. They all have stats, and that makes them strong because they have Lancer, and then you can get 1 life cloth, right? No matter what. And then you go to your mid game, and you've got these things that are ripping up your hand, and then their late game is just removing all of your Signy on the field.
It does have a really interesting, like 3-stage sort of feel to it.
Yeah.
So
it's strong, and not only that, you can took a little bit to realize this, but with the level 2 that's making your opponent discard cards, that's always on. You've got Chime and you've got Madoka and you've got all these things that cycle themselves. There's no point in time where you're like, well, this is not going to make my opponent discard a card.
Yeah, You kind of always have some
And what's great
sort
is
of
with
answer.
Madoka, you can toss back Senga to your hand and give it Lancer.
Which feels bad, man. Like, when you're going up against something like that, like, there's just a lot going on over there. But also, what I thought was really interesting about, like, playing against it as well as playing it, it feels like kind of like aggressive control in a way, because it's just
slow. It's slow mid-range is what I think
it's like, you think it's slow?
Well, because it's not saying no. That's I think the difference, right? Because Uchu is still a control deck. It puts out walls and says no. It freezes your stuff and says no attacking. You're not doing things. No. Madoka doesn't do that. Madoka actually just messes with your opponent's field and messes with them up.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. That's why it feels like control to me.
But it's not. It's really not interrupting your opponent very much, other than proactively making them discard cards. But that's not really saying no. That's just being like, no, I'm going to give you a hard time while I'm punching you in the face. And I think that's why, if you're going to classify it, it's a slow mid-range deck.
Oh, okay.
Because... yeah, I suppose you could say it's an aggressive control deck. It's a proactive control deck, if you want to say that.
At least that's what it feels like when it's being... When I am facing that deck.
Sure.
That's kind of what it feels to me.
It toes the line. I'll agree with you on that. It toes the line. Because there are games where Madoka is just like, no, I'm the aggro deck. And you're like, wait. How are you the aggro deck? It's like, oh, I have Lancer all the time.
How are you the beatdown?
Yeah, I have Lancer all the time. I'm vanishing your stuff all the time. There's a million open lanes.
Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below if you've been playing a Madoka deck. How does it feel to you?
So I think we talked enough about Madoka. Madoka is probably tier 1. Is probably if you were looking for a good blue deck, you've got Madoka. We did actually miss one thing when we were just talking about cards, and I'll just briefly say it. Blue gets a buff also because free strategies are now more viable with Royal Blue and Snow Mayu. But
so cute.
Yeah. But so Spinning Harmony. So there's now some viability to freeze shenanigans. I don't think it's overtly viable. I wouldn't necessarily be like, well, my no limit deck can run freeze things now. I don't think it's like that good. You know? I think Uchu probably used freeze because it doesn't have any other real choices to use right now.
Well, it was also kind of like that in like the last set as well, where like it like alluded to it.
Natural progression.
Yeah, but I think this is a natural progression of that deck.
I think that moving on from that, we should talk about. We talked about Bang the Dream Team, I think, enough in our last podcast for Dream Teams.
Yeah, I think so. We went over it.
So you guys could watch that. The important thing to note is that it's just like it fills the function of a green deck, which is that I have the best Signy around. I'm going to punch you in the face pretty hard, and my red is going to complement that by opening up lanes. So the Magic
it feels
equivalent,
good to play.
Yeah, the Magic equivalent I think is like a zoo deck.
I would say. I'm sorry. Yeah, I would say that. I'm just so excited.
But then we did try Akino, and we also tried DJ Love It, and we did not DJ Love It all that much.
No.
Do you get the joke? We did not DJ Love It. We didn't love it all that much. I guess I'll take over the podcast now that you're laughing.
Joke.
Yeah.
A dumb joke. Okay, but why did we not love it, as you said?
Well, why don't you talk about the Love It deck? You're the one piloting that mostly.
I just didn't find it as effective as other red centers could be.
Yeah.
You know, and like when you're playing something like what's it called? Like Card Jockey, I just didn't feel like Love It really lended itself very much to what it is that you're trying to accomplish with Endless Punchline, because now what you're doing is like you're kind of focusing more on the red and less of like the white. It just felt weird.
No, I agree with you.
I feel like she's just like a stronger assist, so like why wouldn't you do that?
Sure.
So
I think what you're trying to say is maybe that like it doesn't aggro as well as Hirana does, and it doesn't mid range as well as Card Jockey does. Therefore, it sort of just is. Yeah, worse at all angles.
It's its own thing, but it's not my favorite.
Yeah, I suppose it has a small niche if you're if if you need to be more aggressive mid range for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then
It might work better if it was in a dream team or something. I don't know.
Then we also, I think it's worth mentioning, its main gimmick is enter burning, and what just got introduced.
Xeno Cluster.
So yeah, it's
a little why would you?
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Plus, I almost feel like if I'm an aggro deck and I want to enter burn, I probably just play go to the top instead. And I know that has restriction on colors, but it just feels like...
Yeah, but you would still hit that with a Love It Center and a wolf.
Well, you need a white.
Or sorry, lion. There's too many animals.
They're all animals on that one. And then so Akino. I feel like I'm gonna Dream Crush because there's a lot of people excited to play Akino.
I know.
Akino. All here with the puns today.
Oh my god. I'm so sorry, y'all. How did Akino feel for you? Because I have my opinions on it.
Every time I played it, I was like, I'm playing Hirana. Wait a second. I'm not playing Hirana. Oh, I don't have a guard in my hand. I guess I can't use its ability. Oh, I wish I could play Hirana right now. And inevitably, I think it could be its own thing, right? I genuinely think that Hirana could be an aggro center. That this...
You mean Akino?
Akino... No, I think Akino could be a mid-range center. And I think that Rei could be a tempo center.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
When you look at the what they actually do. But there is not enough cards to support Akino.
I would have to agree with that. It just feels like a little bit of a strange fit for the way that No Limit runs right now, because it's just it's like a slower No Limit.
Yeah,
when you could have a stronger Hirana.
Yeah, we built Akino as if it were basically Hirana that's also running white as its another color, and it played basically half a turn slower than Hirana. And it was fine, right? It was fine. It felt powerful. It won games.
I didn't dislike playing Akino. Yeah. It was interesting to kind of slow down and wall a little bit more effectively. So if that's something that, you guys are interested in, or if you're just like an Akino stan,
you can optimize it, sure.
Yeah, you could.
But what we found then was we purposely went, okay, this is almost no different than Hirana. How do we make it have its own identity? Because at some point I want to do a deck tech on this, and we basically don't be like, swap the centers. Congrats, you're done. Kind of.
Yeah,
thing.
that's not going to work out.
So we did some other more mid-range white synergies, and what we ended up with was a pile of cards that were just kind of slow. It sometimes won and it sometimes lost, but it had a direction, and the direction was fine, but there was not a critical mass of cards that were good to support this. I was running Cassiopeia and Saturn. And that combo, when it went off, felt great, but it always felt like I pulled it off 2 turns later. 2 turns late.
Yeah.
And it's just yep. No, the best card in the deck is Haniel and Archwayne. And you look at that and you go, but it's just I figured it out. Just figured it out.
All right.
It's just card jockey without any good punch to back it up.
Yep. That's kind of what it sounds like, doesn't it?
And yes, its ability allows you to basically get in free to Life Crush, right? Because of its ability to basically bounce 2
And then what?
Signy.
That's only 2 out of 7.
Exactly. It's just and you know this from card jockey, there's a major difference between 3 and 2.
Yeah. Why are you gonna call me out like that?
I wasn't even calling you out. It's just sometimes you hit 2 and then you're like, I lost this game, but if I hit 3, I would have won.
Exactly.
Almost every time.
Well, okay. In the defense of No Limit versus Card Jockey, No Limit has that whole thing where you're like, you can't block this. Meanwhile,
sure.
Endless Punchline doesn't have that. So, but no, I agree. It does. it has a direction. It just hasn't really been refined yet.
I think there's not. I just don't think there's the support of cards to do it. And by the time there will be support of cards, I think Hirana's second version comes out and is probably better than this one.
So if you guys have a deck that you really enjoy that has a Love It Center or a Love It Akino, let us know in the comment section down below why you like it and why it works for you.
Oh yeah, and I want to be clear with our testing, right? Like these can still win games.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We're just saying that, look, we're critical so you guys can know the honest truth about things.
But that said, you feel free to play whatever deck brings you the most joy. This is a game after all.
So while we're saying it sucks, right? The margins that we're saying it sucks by is way smaller than I think the average person cares about.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like we if we're saying, all right, we want a deck that wins 55% of the time, right? That's slightly more than losing. Right, that's our goal. Right, if you can get your win rates, just talking about it, right. If your win rate is up to 60%, you're a pro, right? Pro Magic the Gathering's win rates, I believe, hover around 58 to 62% of the time, which means that they only win anywhere from 8 to 12% more than the average player. But that number is a lot, right? We're talking like in running when you're talking about milliseconds. Right?
Yeah.
Small.
It is like the like Olympic shreds of a second number.
So I think Akino, right, probably loses some games that Hirana does, I don't know, 5% more often, which is not a lot, right? Like let's just assume, and in these numbers, I'm just saying these numbers out of my ass. Don't trust me on them at all. Let's say that Akino.
Feel free to do your own.
Let's say that Hirana was a 53% win rate or something, and then Akino loses 5% more than that. It would drop it down to 48%, right? 48% still not a bad margin for a deck.
Yeah.
But it's just slightly below.
Yeah. I think that's true. But also, like, that's kind of, why I want to say, like, you are more than welcome. And in fact, I would encourage you to play whatever deck feels good for you or just is your favorite center and you love them and you just want to play them because of how, like, Wixoss as the game operates. Like, you can turn an entire game around by flipping, like, 2 life bursts back to back. A Wixoss podcast.
Yeah, it's almost like life bursts are important to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Hashtag Life Burst Podcast.
Yeah. Or or even if you just if you time your grows on attack just right, the game could flip in half a turn. So that's kind of, why we're telling you our opinions off of what we've seen, but we're more than willing to have a discussion with you guys in the comments because,
I would love to lose to an Akino. I'm the kind of guy that when I see a cool tech happen in front of me and I lose to it, I'm like, nice, good job.
And we have, in our local meta, there's been some people that have gotten really creative with their decks, and it's always fun to kind of go up against a deck with a dream team that you've never seen before.
That's some people's version of fun. They genuinely like taking a deck that underperforms and winning with it. That's their version. Good for them.
Pachirisu.
You got it. Yeah, metagame, man, if you want to.
What's next on the list?
So we talked about the centers that are coming in. I think the only last thing that we could go over is just sort of big shifts, right? Like does it feel like Musica's better or worse or something, that kind of thing. And what I'm seeing with the big shifts, if I'm going to make metagame predictions, I would say that you're going to find, generally speaking, discard's going to be a little less powerful now because of Xeno Cluster. And
that is true.
I also think that Enter Burning is probably going to be a lot less powerful because of Xeno Cluster.
So such as to the top might not go off quite as you planned.
Yeah. I think you guys are going to listen to us gush about Xeno Cluster a lot and be like, all right, adding it to my deck. And that's going to be great. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who do not listen to our podcast and are not going to put Xeno Cluster in immediately.
And that's fine.
And they're going to get it. No, they'll put it in just 2 months later. when you guys start winning with Xeno Cluster, and they'll go like, oh shit, I should start using that, right?
When the big brain numbers start.
When you guys lead by example.
Yeah. You know what? This is a total side note. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it. I am really excited for the ceremony for two reasons. One, because I've actually never competed in official tournament before, and I'm really excited about it. But two, I'm really excited to see what the results will be, because then we will have like more official, widespread numbers for the English game.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see you guys in general too. Literally all of you selectors. I'm stoked to be able to talk to you guys between rounds and see what's working, what's not working. So if you see me on there, right, on the Discord, my Discord name is Lantern. And you'll see me because I'll have the Life Burst logo on there. Just message me. Just say, hey, what's up?
Yeah. We're excited to talk to you guys.
I'm super excited to talk to people. So I think you're gonna see inevitably some discard getting a little depowered, although discard's also getting powered right now by Madoka anyway, so maybe it's a net zero. And then you're gonna see Enter Burning probably get depowered a bit because of Xeno Cluster. I also think that this is probably the first set where I'm gonna call the rise of blue happening. The last metagame was an aggro metagame.
For sure.
100%.
Yeah.
This one
it worked the best.
Is going to be a little polarizing. I think this one's going to be aggro and control. I think mid-range is going to suffer a little bit because of it. Because inevitably they're going to be getting attacked from both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, that would be difficult. Yeah, because then you would kind of have to decide, like, as a mid-range, like, who's the beat down. And...
Well, yeah, which version of the decks are you going to show yourself up against? Are you going to show yourself up against these fast decks that are taking quick jabs at you, or you're gonna try to shore up your matchup against the ones that are coming in for the wind up punch late in the game?
Yeah, those are gonna be tough.
So I think inevitably you're gonna find that we are now going to enter a control and aggro format, which is good, right? Diversity is good in card games. Let's all say it.
Diversity is good in card games.
So once we get to the Deuce metagame...
I don't want to talk about that yet.
we'll get really upset about that. But for now, diversity is good in card games. And I think inevitably you'll find there will be a lot of blue decks, right? Either it being Madoka or Uchu.
Well, not to mention we're going to be getting in some really nice blue cards that you could you know what, you might want to splash those into some of your other decks. But it does feel like blue has some pretty good support coming out.
So inevitably, I think those are probably the big shifts that you're gonna see longer games happen now.
Oh yeah.
Like. There's the 30-minute timer on the Wixoss ceremony,
which is a full 10 minutes shorter than what we've been doing in our locals.
Yeah. So you guys should probably practice on
definitely do, because especially in like official tournaments and stuff like that, and we clarified this a while ago, it results in a double loss, and they're not messing around with that.
I mean, like the Love It assist, right? Love It, was it Crossfade?
Yeah.
We used to use Crossfade a lot in our testing and just going, hey, vanish this Signy, get it out of the way, right?
And not deal with the second half.
We were not in the second half. We weren't crushing Lifecloth because we weren't having long enough games to justify it. Now it's like 50-50 because we are getting longer games now.
Yeah, we are getting longer games. We're going to have a little bit of a time crunch in the ceremonies, but because of that, I feel like it might be worth it to save up for that.
Right, and by long games, I don't necessarily mean they usually go hand in hand, time long, but I also mean more turns are happening in the game. Like this game used to be over turn 3. It would be rare it got to turn 4. Yeah. Now the average turn is about 4 or 5.
Yeah, I would say it ranges from like 4 to 6 now.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying like it might be worth it to save up for that, but it is also
it's 50-50.
It's 50-50,
yeah. But that's more than what it used to be.
Yes, so indeed.
That's just an example of our testing just bleeding to like, oh, we're kind of going to longer. I think if you're, for example, a no limit aggro deck, you might consider, how do I win a longer game? Right? That's not a concern you had before.
Yeah, especially with how how everything's been feeling. How do you feel like... Yeah, I don't even know. Sorry, my train of thought was just like, whoop, goodbye.
No, but it's true. It's just like, as an aggro deck used to, she's like, I punch really fast. That's how I win. And now it might be like, I punch really fast, and then I need to duck and weave and go in for a sneaky assassin punch to finish the game. You know, like you might need to consider devoting some amount of cardboard to a slightly longer game.
Well, also, I think that kind of harkens back to a previous podcast that we did, which was how to switch up. Well, it goes back to 2 podcasts, which is how to have a good aggro and how to have a good defense. And there comes a point in time in every game where you just have to switch up your tactics, regardless of what deck you're playing. Because some of these decks, even though they skew one way or another, they are very flexible. Mm-hmm. So there might just be a point in time when you have to practice being able to like flip that. When is it supposed to happen? How do I respond to it? What can I change in my deck to make it a better response? So stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. Right. And I think that probably wraps it up, unless you have any closing thoughts that on your end of the world.
I'm just really excited. Honestly, I'm really excited. I'm a little nervous, but it's going to be fun.
Ceremony?
Yeah, for the ceremony, yeah.
It's going to be a fun one. Like, I haven't done...
I'm looking forward to the March parties, because the parties are always fun, but I'm a little nervous about the ceremony.
Yeah.
Just because it feels, I don't know, I'm like, kind of feeling the pressure. Anyways, I really do hope to, it would be cool to meet everybody. It's sold out already. I think there were only 128 spots.
But if you keep up with us, we'll keep you posted with, like, you know, how the rounds went. Like, it'll be a whole tournament arc, like someone said on our comments recently.
A tournament arc.
It'll be a tournament arc. Is that now you're excited, not nervous?
I really like that.
Yeah, it's a tournament arc.
Oh, we'll kind of be like little post-game announcers for it. Oh my god, babe, so cute.
Yeah, so we'll talk about how we did in it. After we're gonna talk after the tournament. Just to be clear here, we're not gonna keep you. We're not going to tell you guys exactly what we're playing and what deck we're going to be playing. But we will, however, after the fact, talk about all of our testing that's going into pre-tournament testing. We just finished up our gauntlet run, and the gauntlet run was more to figure out what is good and what is usable and what is like for deck techs and stuff for changing Diva. We haven't really figured out the metagame yet, because the metagame hasn't happened yet. The metagame will be defined by this tournament.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Is I'm excited to be able to crunch the numbers after the fact, because now we're going to have a more varied and solidified range of data to be able to work with to make even better informed decisions in the future.
I hope,
and not just like, and you know, because it reaches beyond our local meta, it'll give us like a wider range of players.
Yeah, I mean, look, all it will take really to completely mess up the meta for a little while is like, if someone gets first place with like a DJ Lovett deck, right? Like then everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, that's the deck to beat." And you got to recognize that sometimes in a tournament, right? The the results can be so skewed by the metagame, right? Like there was just so many Sandbaka decks there, and that has a good matchup against it, so it managed to get to the top.
Yeah.
But it will be funny, because then the meta will be on its head for a little while. And the fun thing about this is I don't think Wixoss has ever been big enough that you can really talk about the metagame doing big metagame shifts. And we're starting to see the game get popular enough now that there are starting to be metagame shifts, and that's exciting.
Yeah, it is really exciting. So that's why I'm really excited, because it's going to be so interesting.
Yeah.
Like, even just from like, you know, for science. You know what I would love to see?
What?
I want to see somebody break out like a really weird Ott center deck and just wreck with it.
How is that different than literally any time that you just want to see Ott be successful, because Ott is your waifu for Laifu?
It's not different. I just want to see somebody do it. Who knows? It might be me. I don't know.
I think someone did recently on the Reddit. I'm gonna pull up the name. Oh, it's gonna take me a second on my phone. I'm gonna pull up the name because I want to credit someone. Cover me.
stand by. Please stand by. We're looking up stuff on our phone, but we can't really find our phone right now. It's going to take a minute. It's going to...
I think it's Alan is his name.
I think Alan is his name, is what he says. As I don't know if you guys know this, we don't just read the comments on our podcast, but we read all of the comments, but we don't just do that. There's a Wixoss Discord that we will scroll through, but especially the Wixoss Reddit, where there's like a much more like open forum and an open discussion on it, which we would encourage you guys to kind of check out for yourself. But that's where you can get maybe like some unbiased deck opinion. Alcadillon?
Yeah. He's one of our listeners. He messaged on one of our podcasts. We were talking about Umir, the Umir side, right? And he recently won a March podcast or March party with a deck that he was talking to us about on our comment. And it was an at deck.
What?
So there you go.
You didn't tell me it was an at deck.
Well, I didn't get it right. You're busy.
All you said is that Umar was in it.
Yeah, well, you like Umar too.
I do. I love Umar Clear. I really do. Give me that thing.
So shout out to Alcadillon. If I'm not saying your name perfectly right, I'm sorry. I just literally pulled out my tablet to find your name.
We're not good at reading names on this channel. We apologize. We do our best.
But yeah, no, he played like almost something similar to what our Bang Dream team is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
I love.
There you go. See, metagame shifts happening.
Yeah. Yes.
Shout out to Alcadillon.
And remember, no matter the numbers, there is always RNG in card games. So, things can get a little weird, but again, what did we say earlier? Variety is the spice of Wixoss.
That is what you say all
That's
the
what
time.
I say. What did we say earlier? I don't know. Roll it back and let me know in the comments.
I say variant. Like I said. Oh God. Now I can't remember.
See, that's what I was saying.
Diversity is good in card games, but I like yours games. That you.
Variety is the spice of Wixoss. Yeah.
So much dumb.
Well, I think that's all that we have for today, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. We're looking forward to reading all your comments. Let us know if you were able to sign up for the ceremony. And may you always flip a life burst. Multiple ones. That would be great.
And
what?
Variety is the spice
of Wixoss. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.